Hey you guys, Stuart Penlong, the most targeted assistant. Hope you're having a good day. This video is a response video to my one yesterday concerning cops and predator poachers. Alex Rosen made that video yesterday morning. You'll be able to see it. I'll link it in the description about the horrible treatment from that sheriff's deputy down in Mississippi. I'm a little fuzzy headed today. There's been some germs floating around the house, and I'm praying against it, taking honey and cinnamon. I talked to the head sheriff yesterday. I have a call recorder on my phone, and it records it all. And then you get, and this is the first time I've experienced this, another hacking thing. It records all the call, and it tells you recorded it all. And then when you go to listen to the playback of that call, it's silent. And then they say, "Oh, you got to pay $162 to get to access to the calls you have recorded that's taking up storage on your phone." So I had another call app last year, and it was great. It recorded everything. Every time the phone was picked up, every time you dialed, it recorded. It was perfect. But to digress, I talked to the sheriff yesterday. And before I got started on the call, I said, I'm calling about the young men that came and busted the pedophile. And as soon as I said that, he said, okay, let me explain. He said the deputy that showed up on scene was off on leave. He was just 3 blocks away. Apparently, his father had just passed away. He was out of sorts, out of his mind, not even on duty. But they sent him there. The sheriff was very apologetic, and I know my words mean nothing to the trolls out there that don't want to believe me. The sheriff was very apologetic. He agreed with me that the actions of his deputy were inappropriate. That he did not act professionally. Not only that, but he claimed ignorance on the part of his deputy, especially his knowing of the law when it comes to recording cops and talking to someone at their home. You would think that a deputy, and I think he said he'd been there for a very long time. This deputy's been there a long time, and that's what we see a lot on these police accountability channels where a cop has been there so long. That just tells me that officer has been doing his job the wrong way for a very long time. This may be an impossible standard for the cop suckers out there and others that worship law enforcement. I do not care if your father passed away. I do not care if you went through a tragedy. When you punch that clock, your life ends and your service to the people begins. When I had my business, I had to fake a smile all the time. I had to eat crap when me and my employees did something wrong. I had one employee, and I had to put blue dye in our Roundup because they would always tell me they sprayed, and I come back 2 days later and the weeds weren't dead. So I put blue dye in it. And this guy, he was my best friend. We hung out all the time. He's my right-hand man. He went out with the blue dye, and he thought it was funny. He was just spraying it everywhere just to make fun of me. And right in front of the mailbox, he put a swastika. And this was before everybody was nuts about this Palestine, Israel. I mean, this was probably 15 years ago. It was before people were nuts. He put a swastika in front of my customer's mailbox. Now, this customer happened to be my friend, and his wife happened to be Jewish. And when he called me and told me that had happened, because my friend, there was no malice in his heart. I know the man. I carried him to his eternal hole where his body is. I buried my best friend. It was just a dumb kid. I mean, he was 30. It was just a dumb guy doing a dumb thing with no malice. But I left what I was doing right then and there, because I ate lunch with this customer. I ate lunch with him probably 3 to 4 times a month. We would meet during the week and eat and fellowship and enjoy each other's company. I mean, I bought a car from I bought 3 cars from him. I would just say, hey man, don't pay me this month, and we'll put it towards the car. I bought '96 Ford Taurus station wagon from him. Had a cracked block, but I fixed it. I bought a '72 Dodge Dart Swinger with 40,000 original miles, original paint, original. It had the original tires on it, and it was perfect. The body was perfect. The interior was perfect. Not a scratch on it. The only thing it needed was a vinyl top. The Gang Stalkers got that one, but he was my friend. So I, as an employer, could not be friend right then. I had to be boss man. I raced to the store. I got Clorox. I went over there on my hands and knees and scrubbed that swastika. And it was me standing in front of his wife and apologizing and eating crap for the ignorance of my employee. It was my fault that my employee did something reckless. And today's day and age, that's a hate crime. That's how far we've went. But she understood there was no malice. She had met my buddy time and time again on her yard. They would wave. He would carry groceries in. I mean, we were a personal service to them. But because he messed up, it was up to me to fix it. It was a rough conversation with my buddy. It was a rough conversation because he was a natural smartass and he never treated me like a boss. He always wanted to treat me like a best friend. And that all came to a head one day. I sent him out on a job with a new employee to do leaves, and he got over there and the wind was blowing, and when you're doing leaves and the wind's blowing, it makes it a lot more difficult. But you got to do the job. So he drives 30 minutes to do this job, gets there, works 10 minutes, and turns around and drives 30 minutes back to the house and parks the truck. And I go out there and I meet him because I'm inside doing paperwork, and I meet him, and he starts bumping his gums at me. And I start bumping my gums back. And this is not me bragging or anything like that. My daughter was there, and I beat him from the driver's seat of my truck, of the work truck, underneath the truck, to behind the building. My building was 52 feet long. Beat him from the front of the building, 52 feet to the back of the building. He was crawling underneath my air compressor to get away because he wanted to get that way. He wanted to be that way. He wanted to go hands-on, and I lost my employee then. He didn't work for me for another 2 months after that. And it broke my heart. But I had to take responsibility for what my employee did. This sheriff, I can say he's blowing smoke up my ass, and it's possible. In my phone conversation, which I wish you could hear, I was polite. I was never, because I'm not a rude person. He took responsibility. He said there's training coming up, that he appreciates Alex Rosen, what he did. He's going to do everything in his power to inform his deputies and empower them to take complaints from the public seriously and no blow it off. So this guy's getting training. He got disciplined. They probably gave him a couple days off. I don't know. He did not go because he said he doesn't have a right because employee private information protection, which is garbage. They work for us. They don't work for the sheriff. They work for us. So it ought to be, we ought to know what's going on. We ought to know. And him as a sheriff, I appreciate his phone calls. A lot of them never called me back, and he called me back. So I never get calls back. Most of them never call back. The sheriff sounded very sincere. I could be 180 off, but he was sincere. He apologized for the actions of his deputy, and he's taking steps to remedy the situation. So Alex did the right thing. He didn't tell me about whether they prosecuted or going to prosecute or arrest him or what. He didn't say anything about that. But he said they've taken everything on, that he's regrouping and retraining his staff. There's nothing else I can do to follow up to prove what the chief said is correct. All we can do is hope and pray that he got the message. But if this sheriff was willing to call me, not knowing who I am, knowing that I wanted to talk about this specific situation and hit it head on, I give him more props than I do local law enforcement. So everybody go to the video, watch the video. I'd like to tell you what sheriff's department is. I think it was Winston. I think it's Winston, Mississippi, I think is what it was. And if you want to redress, you're welcome to call the sheriff in Winston, Mississippi. file your grievance with him, but he was being, from what it sounded like, he was being sincere and he took steps to remedy the situation. So you can share this with Alex Rosen, you can share it with predator poachers, you can share it with the sheriff's department, whatever you want to do. But an employer, the top man, is responsible for every single person, all the way down to the janitor, all the way down to the guy that cuts the grass. The man in charge is the one that's guilty of anything his staff does. As I had to take responsibility for my employees being stupid, the sheriff seems to be taking responsibility for his deputies being, let's say, out of sorts. As I said again, the guy was off duty, his father had just died, and he wasn't even supposed to be on call at all. Doesn't excuse the behavior, but the sheriff gave it's good enough explanation for the public out there. You guys would accept that. I'm, of course, always reserved to accept what law enforcement tells me, but I will accept that the sheriff sounded sincere and he's taking steps to remedy the situation. So, I'm Stuart Pidlong, the most targeted citizen. Have a good day. Bye-bye.